Hello, it is another weirdly warm day in March, and I thought I would start something a little bit new. So, I've been seeing everyone replacing screen time with reading for like a long time now, and I've been wanting to do it, and recently other videos popped up again, and I was like, okay, I really need to do it. But I want to do it a little bit differently because I'm starting to enter like a busy-ish time at work, and there are things that I really need to be focusing on. So it's going to be a little harder for me to pick up a physical book and read with the amount of time that I listen to things, because with the way my work is, I can like have something on in the background because I'm in the office. I'm just entering data for the most part. It's pretty easy for me to have background noise, and I thrive with background noise. So what I thought I would do is replace my YouTube watching time with my audiobook reading time. So last week, I actually wasn't on that much over the weekend because I had a lot of stuff to do. So I was actually listening to audiobooks in the car instead of walking around the house listening to booktubers. So I'm kind of catching up today on what everyone posted over the weekend, because there was a lot of things I wanted to watch that were posted over the weekend, but I was just too busy. So what I decided I'm going to do, all that being said, is I had 18 hours and 16 minutes of YouTube watch time last week. The plot that it gives you, because I couldn't just look at my phone, because I often will put it on my laptop or I'll put it on my TV and while I'm working, so it's not always just on my phone. I'm actually, like, my screen time on my phone is not a whole lot because I tend to use my computer and my TV. So what I'm going to do is replace all of my YouTube watching time with audiobook reading time. So 18 hours and 16 minutes, and the plot is unclear. So I'm going to show you the plot every day and tell you what I assume it's at. So for today, I'll put up this plot. It won't let me click on it and get the actual information. So, but I screenshot it last night before the week changed, so I would have it. I am going to go through my recommended sci-fi list, which I'll put up here because I had my Instagram mutuals suggest me some sci-fi, and I'm actually reading two of them this month physically. The first one that I read so far, you'll see it marked off on this list, is Murderbot, and I love it, and I'm continuing with the series. So the next one I'm currently reading, you'll see the vlog for soon. Before you see this, actually, that vlog will be up, and then there's another short one that I'm going to start. So, but I figure I'll pick one off of here that either Libby has, or I do have an Audible credit kicking around. So, or I might see if I can find something in the free section. So I'm going to find a book. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to listen to some audio samples. I'm going to pick one and take the dog for his afternoon stroll. He is currently having a snooze, but if I say the W word, he will be ready to go. So we're gonna use stroll for right now. So I will check in with you once I have picked something and once we're getting going. And that's, I think, what we're gonna do today. It is, like I said, it's another warm day. It's 70 degrees and it's March. So I do have some things to do this afternoon too, but audiobooks. 4.5 hours today of listening time, not book time. 4.5 hours of listening time. And it is 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so I should be able to knock that out, no problem. I have chores to do, so we're gonna do it. Tomorrow's gonna be a struggle. Wait till you see what I have to do tomorrow. Okay, so the only book Libby has available on my list is Hunt the Stars, and none of them are free on Audible right now, and I am hesitant to use my credit for this today for some reason. So we're just going to start with this one. It's a 12-hour book. It's 419 pages, so I have it pulled up on Storygraph. It's got a 4.04 star rating on Storygraph, which usually is pretty accurate for how I feel about books. Storygraph's pretty close most of the time. So it says, Octavia Zarola would do anything to keep her tiny, close-knit bounty hunting crew together, even if it means accepting a job from Torrin Fletcher, a ruthless former general and her sworn enemy. When Torrin offers her enough credits to not only keep her crew afloat, but also hire someone to fix her ship, Tavi knows that she can't refuse, no matter how much she'd like to. With so much money on the line, Torrin and his crew insist on joining the hunt. Tavi reluctantly agrees because while the handsome stoic leader pushes all of her buttons, for both anger and desire, she's endured worse, and the massive bonus payment he's promised for a completed job is reason enough to shut up and deal. But when they uncover a deeper plot that threatens the delicate peace between humans and Valofs, Tavi suspects that Torrin has been using her as the impetus for a new war. With the fate of her crew balanced on a knife's edge, Tavi must decide where her loyalties lie, with the quiet Valof who's been lying to her, or with the human leaders who left her squad to die on the battlefield. And this time, she's put her heart on the line. So I'm hesitant because of the heavy romance added to it, but I'm not going to be afraid to DNF during this challenge. That's what I've decided. So, Hunt the Stars. It is the start of a series. So we'll see how we feel about it. Like I said, the romance part is making me a little hesitant because they don't, books that have heavy romance in them don't always work for me. I don't mind a romance like through line, but if it's going to be focusing on the romance pretty heavily, they don't always work for me because I find that typically for me there's not enough setup for me to actually care. So I just get annoyed. But we'll find out. I'm not going to automatically rule it out. And we're going to get started. I'm going to let the dog know that we're going to go and get my earphones and all that and get headed out on this walk. Hey, fluffy boy. Do you want to go on a walk? Yeah? Should we go? You think we should go on a walk? Okay, let's go on a walk. Ready? Go. So I'm nearly an hour in. Which means I'm 2 hours into the book. Like, I've listened for an hour. So I'm like almost 2 hours into the book. I don't know how I feel about it. It's first person, which is not my favorite usually, but I'm okay with it. But it's very there's a lot of like, I walked over and I picked this up, and then I walked over and I picked that up, and then we walked into the kitchen and we did this, and I'm like, oh my god, why do I need to know every single detail of every single thing that you do and like what you picked up? And it's a lot of like that type of structure, which is not my favorite and doesn't really work very well for me. The main character, Tavi, so she's the captain of this ship, and she has agreed to assist in finding a stolen piece of like a family heirloom for this guy, what's his name? Torin. For this guy Torin. And so because I play D&D, I always picture this, like a Torin, even though it's not spelled the same. Or not D&D, World of Warcraft. Anyway, I always just picture a World of Warcraft Torin. So anyway, so he is a alien race that had a war with humans, and so it literally is like an enemies story. And if there's gonna be a romance, then I guess it kind of actually is at least an enemies to lovers, where they were on opposite sides of a war. They both fucking hate each other, but I guess she's one of the better bounty hunters, and he's a diplomatic person. He's like a diplomat. So I don't know. It feels very YA in the writing style and the way that the story is going. We have a telepathic, fluffy cat fox hybrid animal, which is cute. And apparently they're an endangered species, but this one refused to leave her ship. So we have a crew where we have a woman mechanic, and we have a dude, like first mate, basically, who is exceedingly handsome apparently and has like extra charisma points. And then we've just hired a woman mechanical engineer as well, who is fleeing the planet because she had an affair with the wife of someone important who failed to tell her that she was married. But I'm like, if you spend any time somewhere, like, I feel like it would have been kind of obvious to know that this person was like married to like the most important person in town. Maybe should have been kind of obvious, but I guess it wasn't. So, and they had an affair for months, so she needs to flee because they're claiming that she's a traitor. So that's what we've got for a crew. And then we've got 3 more of these people of the same race as Torin, the Volofs, I believe. And they just always wear armor, so they're pretty much cardboard cutout people at the moment. Our main character also, Tavi, she agreed to go through some sort of like military testing and experimentation, so she can see auras around people sometimes, but it causes like migraines and shit. So I don't know. We also have like an implant like right under here that is like a subvocal communicator. So they're basically able to communicate secretly to each other. Tavi, Eli, who's the first mate guy, whatever they're calling him, and Key, who is the mechanic. So, or something like that. Systems engineer. I don't know. She's some sort of something techie and mechanically, and they're trying not to do a ripoff of Kaylee, but it feels a little bit like a ripoff of Kaylee so far, so we'll find out. Anyway, that's where I'm at. I gotta go do some work. My lunch break is over. So listen to an hour during my lunch break, and I'm gonna go do some work. I can't really listen while I'm working because I need to read a bunch of papers and collect a bunch of information. So I'm gonna go do some scientific reading. So I will check in a little while later once I get my earbuds back in and do my cleaning or whatever I need to do today. I haven't decided. So I'll check in with you soon. Okay, I'm 50% in to Hunt the Stars. And it's supposed to be like a sci-fi with romance. And it's probably the same amount of romance as like a romantasy. So the romance is kind of like the major plot. We're 50% in and we haven't had any action, like at all. It's just been like character development and our captain, Tavi, getting close with and starting to kind of trust Torin. And pretty much it's just her like constantly like, oh my god, he's so hot, but I can't trust him. Oh my god, he's so hot, but I can't trust him. Oh my god, look at those muscles, but I can't trust him. And I'm kind of over it. It's gonna be like a 3-star. We haven't had any clues about the mystery. We haven't had any like battle scene. It's been kind of boring. It's not bad. It's just not what I wanted. So I don't know. I was hoping it was going to be more like mystery forward, right? Because somebody stole something from like a diplomat and we spent half the book just getting to the planet where it was stolen from. So I'm so done. But I'll keep going because I'm listening to it like 2.5 now at this point because there's not a lot happening and I don't really need to like listen to it slow. And it's kind of a slow read, like it's read very slow through the audio narrator. So yeah, basically it's the only little bit of like tension we had was like racism in space because sorry, you can probably hear my dishwasher. Since Torin is a Volof and Tavi is a human, there was a war between the two of them only like 5 years ago, and even though Earth won, there's a lot of prejudice against the Volof since, including with Tavi and her crew as well. So it's like racism in space, basically, because these guys are all like tall and muscular and can read minds. So scary. So that, yeah, it feels very juvenile. Tavi is supposed to be like 34, but she's like constantly like distracted by his muscles and blushing at everything he says and like getting distracted by how intense his eyes are. And I'm like, you're a grown-ass woman. Like a grown woman. Come on, get your shit together. So yeah, it's not for me. It's gonna be like a 3 because it's not bad. There's nothing offensive. It's not terrible writing. It's just not my writing style. There has not been a badass yet, so I'm happy with that. So anyway, I've only been listening for like 2 hours and 45 minutes today so far. So I've got another almost 2 hours to do. I'm probably not gonna get it done tonight because I ended up spending way too long at my parents' house. So I'm gonna go back to listening while I eat my dinner. Good morning. I'm very backlit right now, but we're gonna go with it. So I managed to do 4 hours last night of the 4.5 because I started late with working and wasn't doing something where I could actually listen while working. So I missed a half an hour. So I gotta add that on to today's 5 hours and 45 minutes. So today's gonna be fun. We're gonna listen to 6 hours and 15 minutes of audiobooks. We're probably gonna have to roll over, but I do have to drive out to Lake Washington to meet another researcher. So I have like a 1.5-hour drive out and then an hour-ish drive back to the office, and then I'll do some stuff in the office, and then I have an hour-ish drive home from the office. So that's like 4 hours nearly in the car today. So we're going to get through quite a bit as long as I keep listening in the car, which means we're going to finish this book because I'm already 77% into this book because I'm listening to it very fast because nothing is happening. It's like, it's all just relationship building, which is fine, but not really what I was expecting, because the synopsis played up the mystery bit, the detectiving, and we're not doing a whole hell of a lot of detectiving until just now. So I've been listening to it at like 2.5 speed. It's fine. It's not for me, but I could see it being for people who do like stuff in the romance category. So far, the only like fantasy romances that I've liked, and I'm gonna kind of group this, it's like a sci-fi romance. It's like very much the same type of tropes as a fantasy romance would have. The only ones of those that I've liked have been T. Kingfisher because I just like her sense of humor and I like her characters. And I think those have worked for me just because the fantasy world is actually built really well around it. And the storyline itself, like, is heavily used. And there's just a lot of, like, humor in it. And the 30-something-year-old women actually act like 30-something-year-old women. And I don't feel like Tavi does act like a 30-something-year-old woman in the way that she's interacting with Torin. When she's interacting with her crew, she's very mature, and you can tell she's, like, clearly an adult. But with the stuff with Torin, it's like she regresses into, like, that giddy 20-year-old, and I'm just like, oh my god, woman. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, so the mystery has kind of been, like, revealed finally, like, what they're actually after, and this caused, like, a backstabby moment, and now we're, like, trying to figure out if we can trust again, basically. So we had our third act breakup, I guess. Even though they never really got together, but they were at least, like, friends that were super attracted to each other and had a very steamy makeout session. So that's where we're at now. I'm gonna get driving, eat my breakfast in the car on the way, and I will check in with you soon. Maybe I'll give you some B-roll of the lake. I don't know what the other researchers are going to be doing, so I probably can't film, but I can give you some B-roll of the lake, because it's a nice sunny day, as you can tell from my heavily backlit self. I've made it to the lake a little bit early. Only took me an hour to get here, which is good, but I'm like half an hour early, which is fine. I'll just wander around. But I finished the book like 5 minutes ago as well, so definitely not for me. I took a risk. Like, when I was looking at it, when it was suggested to me, I did see that it was a romance, and I was like, well, it pitches this, like, mystery thing, but the romance was definitely the forward part of the plot. The synopsis is a little bit of a cheat, but yeah, so I did finish it. I did something out of my comfort zone. I do have a goal to read 10 books out of my comfort zone this year, so this is out of my comfort zone. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't for me. It's a 3, I think. It was so cheesy in certain places. But, it did the thing that a lot of people like, with the overly doting man who just, like, wants to protect you, and he's big and strong and muscular, and he has a lot of sexual prowess. And he's quiet and broody and hard to read. So, but not for me. So I'm gonna write my reviews, because I finished other things last night too, where I'm part of this. So I'm gonna do some reviews and head out to go see where I'm supposed to meet people. So I finished here much, much earlier. WDFW caught another invasive northern pike, which are very large, aggressive predators, so that's what we were here to pick up, and they happened to catch another one today, which is definitely not good. It means someone's introducing them to the lake. There's a ton of articles on them. I'll link one in case anyone's interested, because they just found one up in the San Juan Islands, which is very, very bad. And it means someone's transported it, like, all the way over there from, like, eastern Washington. So I'll put a link down below if you're interested, but I'm gonna go through my TBR real quick before I leave and pick a book at random that I can find an audiobook for and start listening on the way home. Alright, I decided to sort by sci-fi and just check out one of the first couple that came up that was available. So Dune was most recently added to my TBR, and that's definitely not going to be available right now with the new movie coming out. But The Death I Gave Him was available. It's a 10-hour book, which means we will finish it today. So I'm gonna get started on The Death I Gave Him. Hello. I've been home for about a half an hour. It is 7 o'clock. And I've had a very long day. I've been chilling for the last 30 minutes. I took the dog for like a 15-minute walk, and then I've just been chilling after that for the last 15 minutes, I guess. Lots of driving today. Majority of my listening time, which has been 4 hours and 12 minutes according to my stopwatch, have been in the car. It was an hour out to the field site. It was an hour to the office. And then it was an hour and a half from the, or hour and 15 minutes from the office home. And I drove out to lunch day. I forgot to pack a lunch. So I drove 15 minutes into town to grab my lunch and then 15 minutes back to the office. So I've driven a lot today, and now I'm going to go drive to the gym. So I decided to take a little break from my ears, listen to the silence for a little bit, which is odd. Normally I really like to have things on all the time, but I think it's because I've been wanting to focus on what I'm listening to. So today I've finished Hunt the Stars. I told you about that one. And I'm 55% through The Death I Gave Him, which is a Hamlet retelling. So I had heard a couple of reviews about this one, and I honestly completely forgot what people's issues with it, but I remember it was about a 3 for most people that I watched reviews from. I'm a little unsure in the beginning about what was happening. I'm still unsure. Hold on. I gotta move my arm. Ugh. I'm still unsure about the exact order of events, I think. And you're supposed to be. It is a murder mystery, so it's a sci-fi because it's in the future, near future. It's not super far in. We're following Hayden, who's in the beginning of the book. His father was murdered, and we are kind of following Hayden as he's reacting to it, along with we're also following Felicia, who is his ex girlfriend. Sorry, I was just distracted. I was like, I could grab my tripod. Anyway, it's his ex-girlfriend, and they both work in the same research center. She's an intern, and he's the son of the owner, so a couple of Nepo babies. And, yeah, because her dad works there too. So anyway, so we're following the two of them after Hayden's dad has been murdered, and Hayden has this connection to the artificial intelligence in the building named Horatio. And the two of them are kind of piecing together what's been happening while trying to decide who in the building killed Hayden's father. Graham, who's a researcher studying the extension of life. Hayden is obsessed with immortality in the sense of he doesn't want to die. So he wants to live forever. But Hayden is a bit depressy. And I say that in the most loving way, but it's also a very big part of the plot. And it's a locked room, essentially, mystery. We don't know who did it. It has been a long time since I've read Hamlet, so I don't remember like the events that happened necessarily or who is supposed to be what. I just remember it being very depressing. But anyway, so we're at the point now where Hayden has done something essentially irredeemable, and shit is kicking off even more. So we still don't know at this point, 55% in, who killed Graham. We don't know who killed Graham. We don't know why Graham was killed, necessarily. We know that there was a research breakthrough that happened, and Hayden is doing everything he can to protect that research from his uncle, who he thinks wanted to steal the research. So that's what we have happening. My memory of Hamlet is that The Lion King is based on it, so I know there's like an uncle rivalry. So at least that is accurate to my memory of Hamlet. So anyway, I am gonna feed the dog while he tantrums, get changed, and go to the gym, which will give me another hour and 20 minutes of listening, and that'll put me up to 5 hours and a half-ish, and then I'll only have 45 minutes to go after that, so I can probably do this tonight. But I do really want to do some physical reading tonight too and give my brain a break, so we'll see how far I get in my goal of 6 hours and 15 minutes today. But we are nearly there. We're at 4 hours and 15 minutes, so only 2 more hours to go. I'm on my way out to the gym, but I just needed to show you what I left my fairy lights on, and I just really love how my plant stand looks. when it's dim out and the fairy lights are on. So a lot of these are, I don't like the new light setup, which is there. And I had 2 where I lived before. But most of them are pretty happy. Just the succulents are not. My brain feels a little like mush, but I did it. I actually did it. I did 6 hours of audiobook today. 6 hours and 15 minutes, which means I actually finished The Death I Gave Him, and actually went 1 minute over to just finish it out. So yay. That was, my brain feels a little mushy. I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fan. I was a little bit bored. I think if the POV had focused like solely on Felicia, I probably really would have liked it, but I didn't like Hayden, and I didn't like the weird relationship with Horatio, the AI that's like in love with him. And I feel a bit weird about it having like the LGBTQ tag when Horatio is an incorporeal AI that just got named a male name. It doesn't it's an AI. It was determined, like it just seems weird to give it that label in all of like the advertising and stuff, when I'm like, okay, sure. So I don't know. I feel a little bit weird about it, but that's just me. It was boring, to be fair. I liked the writing, like, so it's a 3-star for me because I liked the writing. I was just bored. Like, the plot was, I get that it's a retelling of something, so, and like I said, I don't remember Hamlet very well. But the writing was, like, weird in that it was kind of, like, heavy on the metaphors, which I always like. And so I enjoyed the way that it was written and the way the story was told. I liked that it was told from in the, what do you call it? I had the word earlier. Epistolary. I liked that it was told in the epistolary format, where it's like excerpts from journals and letters and postcards and books that have been written and like camera footage and transcripts from like text messages or audio recordings. I liked that it was kind of all pieced together to tell this story of this event that happened. And so I enjoyed that format. I just think it needed to be shorter. It was too long in a lot of places. And like I said, the affection and the romance part of it between Horatio and Hayden was really forced. The ending part of it, there's an end scene that kind of makes sense, like for character development, but the rest of it just felt so forced, and weird, and yeah. So anyway, I've got to do 4 hours tomorrow, so that'll feel like a treat. We're gonna get less as the week goes on, so only 4 hours tomorrow, so I'll see what I get around, what I pick. Look at this pouty dog. He's ready to go for a walk, even though we're way ahead of schedule, but I gotta start shifting him earlier anyway, so we're gonna go for a walk. I figured out what I'm gonna read finally. It took me a little while. I was gonna do like a random number generator and then see if it was available, but the first 4 were not available. So I was like, okay, instead, I'm going to go through and I'm going to find all the books on my digital TBR, like everything that's in Storygraph that are under 300 pages, and see if they're available on Libby, and I will write down all the ones that are available. And then I added in another, because that was like 10 books, I did another 5 that were under 350, just the first 5. And then I was going to do a random number, but I was like, it's such a small amount. So what I did was I went into Storygraph again, and I looked at the ratings on each one, and I wrote them all down. And so I went with the one with the highest rating that is available, and that is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is only a 5-hour audiobook, so we're going to get through it today because we have 4 hours to listen. So we're going to get through it, and then I'll have to pick another one to start. So, I listened to a sample. The audio narrator is great. Probably going to listen to it at 2x based on the speed that they speak at. So we're going to finish it in 2.5 hours. So, yeah, gonna take the doggo on a short 15-minute walk, since we're out of schedule, and then I gotta go work. Okay, so I've listened for half an hour, so I'm like an hour and 11 minutes, because actually I'm able to listen to it at 2.2, and it feels not super fast. Like I'm able to keep track of everything. So we're just gonna keep listening at that speed because it feels comfortable for this one. So we are following Constata, who is just recently been turned into a vampire by who I presume is Dracula. It's just her and him at the moment, and they've fled wherever they were originally, to Vienna because of the plague. So they had like a doctor came to their house and explained what was going on, and Dracula killed him and made her flee. And this is, I think, probably the first moment where she's become like wary of who he is, and she's writing this all as a letter. So we're getting it in first person, past tense, and her explaining everything that happened, how she became a vampire, how he saved her, and how she came to love him like very instantly, type of thing. So that's where we're at so far. There's still like 4 hours left in this book. So according to the synopsis, this is basically she's Dracula's first bride, and then he starts to bring in other ones, and she finds companionship and love in and comfort in the other brides of Dracula. So and it starts off with like something like your blood on my face or something like that. So it sounds like she's killed him from the very like first word of the book, but I'm not sure. So I'm enjoying it. The audio narrator is, what is her name? Because she's really good. I really like her voice and how she is doing the pacing and everything. Abby Craden. I'm enjoying her pacing and her accent and the way that she does, like the way that she enunciates. And it's very clearly pronounced. And so I'm really enjoying her. So hard recommend for things narrated by Abby Craden. Anyway, I've got a little bit of work I've got to do. I've got to work about another hour, so I'm going to do some reading and outlining, and I'll check back in with you when I'm done. Okay, so I'm 2 hours in. I'm about to leave my parents' house. I had to go put all the blankets on the horse, the blankets on my 2 horses, because they're the only ones that are going to get cold tonight. My gelding, if he gets cold, he drops like 50 pounds overnight, and yeah, so he needs a blanket. Anyway, I'm another hour into the book, and the specific brand of emotional abuse is very difficult for me to listen to. It's very difficult to listen to. So I'm hoping the payoff is really good, because I'm like trying to be like, it's just a book. It's just a book. It's just a book. So, but I'm very angry for her. I'm very angry for Constata, and they keep pronouncing it Constanza, but it says Constanta in the synopsis. So anyway, I'm gonna go get myself a sushi bowl for lunch, and I will keep listening, and I'll check in when I have hit my 4 hours. I'm at an hour I've been listening. So yeah, I'm very excited because back in January, after I read Grey Dog, I read The Ark, and I pre-ordered it. It's supposed to be out April 9th, but it just showed up today. So I'm super stoked. I got my early release. It is not as red as the digital is, so I'm very excited about that because the digital cover is like blinding. But I'm super excited. So I did a review of this. I had to pause because my nose was itching uncontrollably. I did a review of this back in January, but this is a historical horror that's full of like feminine rage. Our main character is a school teacher in like 1901, and she is attracted to women, and she is suppressing that because of the time, and it kind of all like comes to a head with this like supernatural stuff going on, and it's all told through her journal. And I was obsessed, absolutely obsessed with this book. So there's like a moment where I was just like, when it's slow, it's very slow to get there, but when it gets there, that moment, I was just like, oh my God, did she really do that? she did. So, yes, I strong recommend Grey Dog by Elliot Gish if you are looking for some feminine rage horror. Awesome, amazing, spiral into mental instability and all the vibes of like a small town and like that religious oppression that's like that tense horror. Very, very good. Very, very exciting. I'm super excited that I got the book. So, yeah, it's also indie. It's an independent Canada print company. So definitely check it out. I'm most excited. They're doing yard work outside, so I apologize. They've been doing it for about 4 hours, so they're not gonna stop. Apparently it's time for yard work season again, which means for about 6 hours every, I guess, Wednesday this year, there's going to be yard work. I'm so excited. Anyway, oh my god, I don't know what they're doing. Okay, I'm just gonna hope it's not too loud. I finished A Dowry of Blood. I decided to sit and play some Pokemon while I listen, which has been kind of nice. I haven't actually played games in a while. So I'm gonna continue doing that as I do the next hour and a half. I only have to listen to another, I only scheduled myself for another hour and a half today. And then I'm gonna do some physical reading. It's really dreary outside and cold, so I'm just gonna chill inside. So yes, A Dowry of Blood. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it yet, but it's around a 4. I really enjoyed it. Awesome female revenge, feminine rage, type story. As far as vampire stuff goes, it fits a lot of the same lore. The way that everyone was, like, that Constance or Constanza, her name kind of evolved over the years. I liked her character growth throughout it, how she went from, like, kind of evolved through these stages of abuse to kind of become her own person. And I liked that even though they were all kind of trauma bonded and stuff, that's not how the story ended. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. It's probably around a 4, so I'm gonna write up my little review and then start some more reading. I've just done a lot of really dark things so far, so I'm gonna switch up to something lighter, and I'm going to listen to an episode. I'm gonna listen to the next in the Murderbot series, which is like a 3.5 hour book, so it should get me right up to as far as I need to go today. But it'll be a little bit lighter. I'm absolutely in love with the Murderbot series, so this will be book 4 I'm about to start. Yes, book 4. So in my second Murderbot of the month. The next one after this is a longer one, so this is the last, like, this is not the last, but after this it's not a novella. It's like a 350-page novel, so it'll be a little bit longer, and then back to novellas, I think. So anyway, I'm going to start the next Murderbot book, and I will tell you about it when I'm done. Alright. I did it today. I did my 4 hours. I actually did 4 hours and 25 minutes because I just wanted to finish off Exit Strategy, which is the name of the 4th Murderbot. And I honestly will never get tired of Murderbot denying that it has feelings, having a feeling, and then getting upset about it. It is so freaking relatable, and I will always enjoy it. The wit is so, like, dry, and the timing is, like, just perfect. Honestly, I feel so much better after listening to it. It made it, like, go from kind of a daunting task to be like, oh, I'm overwhelmed from listening to things, to be like, oh, I can listen to another Murderbot. And I will check in with you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have, I've got to look, but I believe it was 3 hours, or like 2 hours and 45 minutes, something much shorter. These were like the 3 longest days. Yes, I have a little less to do, and I'll check in with you tomorrow once I figure out what I'm going to listen to. So we'll see you then. Okay. Oh, God. It took me a minute or 2, but I figured out what I'm going to read. So I have roughly 4 hours left for the week. 2.5 hours today, an hour tomorrow, and half an hour on Saturday, and nothing on Sunday. I will probably continue to read through the weekend, like more than this, but I wanted to have books where I could where I could just finish out those 4 hours with you. So I was going through a list and like nothing was inspiring me, like nothing. Which probably means I'm a little burnt out, but we're gonna keep pushing. So I decided to pick up A Season of Monstrous Conception, which, do I remember what it's about? Absolutely not, but it was on my list. I read the synopsis yesterday. It sounded like something I wanted to read. Okay, so I've listened for 50 minutes, which is an hour and 26 minutes into the book. I'm listening at 1.75 because I really like the narrator's voice at that pace. It actually comes across as like a normal pace, so I don't even want to know what it sounds like at 1. 4.5 in. I think there's like 3 hours or 2.5 hours left of the book. I'm really enjoying it. So we're set in London, sometime after Cromwell's death. I didn't catch the exact time that we're living in, but a bunch of babies are being born that have abnormal deformities, things like gills or horns or tails. And hold on. And so gills, tails, large eyes made for seeing in the dark. And no one quite knows why or what's happening. Of course, the church is blaming the devil and the women. And we are following a midwife she's a midwife's apprentice. And the midwife she works for is actually a witch, who is able to like draw power from another universe where those who are marked is what they're calling them, that survive, because not all the babies survive because some of their abnormalities are too much for our world. So those that do survive have the potential to pull into this other realm to pull power from, and so some of them are being trained as midwives, in this particular form of midwifery, along with our main character, Sarah. So Sarah grew up, so none of this is really spoilers because it's all in the first little bit. Sarah grew up not in London, but she was the last daughter of a poorer family who couldn't afford her, so they married her off, and then her husband mysteriously died. And basically the village was like going to kill her for his death when Mrs. June, the midwife, saw something special about Sarah and took her under her wing. So Sarah is in training so that she can become a midwife on her own and for once in her life support herself and not be under the control of somebody else. Because she's a widow and in this era she has like a specific status where it's not expected necessarily that she'll marry again, because she's widowed. She's already done her duty apparently, which is interesting. So we're following Sarah, and Sarah is definitely an interesting character to follow, and I'm enjoying it. I did not realize historical horror would like be my thing this year, but apparently it's my thing this year, so I'm in my historical horror era. All right, I am gonna read physically for a little while before I go to the gym, and I need to read for another hour and 40 minutes today, but I have to go to the gym, so that'll give me some listening, and we'll see how far we get. Okay, so I finished it, and finished my exactly like 2.5 hours, which is great. Loved it. Oh my god, definite 5-star. Historical horror, with like feminine rage in it, just really, really works. The main character was like written in such a way where she bounced back and forth between like demure and pliable and like dangerous and full of rage in a way that like made sense with her character development, and I was just 100% here for it. So I'm excited. I've been working on stitching all of my February squares together while I've been listening. I ended up not going to the gym, just was not feeling it. So I've got almost all of the 28 in, so six left. So 22 of them I have sewed on today. I was just weaving this in while I was finishing up. So yes, I will finish this up later this weekend, I think. I'm definitely going to call it for the night. Tomorrow I have a meeting at 9 a.m. Joy in person. So I've got like an hour and a half drive into work because it's so early that there's going to be a ton of traffic. So I will knock out my hour. I think I only have an hour and a half tomorrow. I have to look at it. It's only an hour tomorrow, so I'll knock that out on the way into work. I don't know what I'm going to listen to yet. I've had a very long day. Very long day. It's 4 o'clock and I just got home. I left the house at 7:45 this morning and I'm tired. Between work and errands and groceries, I still gotta put my groceries away, but I thought I'd check in real quick because I got really frustrated. I remembered that I had said I would read Frankenstein, but the copy of Frankenstein I had, which is why it was so short, and I couldn't figure out why it was so short, I just assumed it was a short book because I've never actually read it. And the classics can either be incredibly long or incredibly short. Turns out I had an abridged version, and then I got frustrated because I wasn't understanding certain things, like the relationships of people to people, because he kept calling Elizabeth his cousin, then his sister, then his beloved, and I was like, wait, okay, very confused. And then it was like William was like at one point his son, at one point his brother, at one point Elizabeth's child. And I think that has to do with the abridging, with the way they've shortened it because of the relationships weren't clarified. And yeah, so I know the gist of the story. I've got more of the story now. I'm like almost done with the abridged version, but I'm just not going to finish it because I'm just frustrated with the way that it's abridged. I don't like abridged stories. I just want the whole story. I don't need you to shorten it for my attention span. Like, so I'm going to DNF it. Nothing with the book. It was going to be like a solid 3.5. Like, I just very frustrated with the audiobook, and I don't want to start the long one because apparently it's 11 hours for the like traditional one. But here's the thing with like putting it into Storygraph, there are so many versions of Frankenstein and it won't let me search by ISBN. And since I can't search by ISBN, when I put in Frankenstein, it brings me up everything with Frankenstein in the name. And there were literally 4,000 entries. I could probably do it from my laptop, but I was very frustrated. And I'm just exhausted. And I've already listened to 1 hour and 20 minutes today. I've been in the car that long, and I just, my brain needs a break. So I'm going to put my groceries away, take my dog for a walk since he's been home by himself all day. Well, since my boyfriend left for work at like 1 o'clock, he's been home alone for 3 hours. He's fine. He's acting like it's the end of the world though. He's end of the world. He had to pull all the blankets off the couch. So now I gotta clean my couch because it's covered in dog hair because he pulled his dog blanket, which was tucked into the couch, off the couch to be dramatic. He has 3 beds up here, if you count the couch. And he had to pull the couch blanket. He has a bed downstairs, a bed upstairs, and our bed, which he gets on when we're gone. And the futon in the spare room is folded down so that he can get on that when my boyfriend's in there playing video games. He has more beds in this house than I have places to sit in this house. Anyway, that's it for me for today. I only have a half an hour tomorrow, so I'm thinking I'm just gonna call it here. I'm definitely going to listen to a half an hour tomorrow. So this is my Monday to Friday replacing YouTube with books. And I did, let's see, we have done 4 whole books. We did Hunt the Stars, The Death I Gave Him, A Dowry of Blood, and A Season of Monstrous Conception. Out of all of those, a Season of Monstrous Conception was by far my favorite. They just got better each time, so it's kind of, I'm like, let's just fucking call it. Let's just call it. So, thanks for hanging out with me while we read 4 books in, 4 days. Let's not talk about the fact that one of them is a novella, but it's fine. So super excited with how well that worked. I think weirdly, it was a little more overwhelming for my brain to listen to a book than to have like YouTube on in the background. Because I think some of those days where like the 6-hour day, I think some of that was actually like 3 hours of a classical music playlist while I was reading papers. So my brain was definitely like on that 6-hour day, my brain was like, bro, this is so much. What are you doing to us? My brain was fried, absolutely fried. So that was a rough one. And it didn't help that the death I gave him was not for me at all. I think that was the day. Was that the death I gave him? No, that was when I finished Hunt the Stars and... Oh yeah, no, Hunt the Stars and the Death I Gave Him. Yeah. So neither of those books were for me. So my brain was just like, bitch. Fucking stop. So anyway, this was fun. I'm going to do something else like this soon. My fieldwork season starts Monday. I'm going to be super busy. So you're going to get more audiobook reviews from me for a little while. I'm assuming. I can't tell you what it's going to be like, what my brain's going to do, because it might just be every day I get home, my brain just decides we're going to read for hours to like decompress, because fieldwork is very mentally and physically taxing with what we're doing. So, yeah, I've got to drive out to Seattle on Tuesday, and then I'll be driving out to Seattle 4 to 5 days a week, which is about an hour and a half drive for me. It's going to be great, because then I've got to drive from Seattle to another town to my other field site in between that. And so on fieldwork days, I spend like 4 hours in the car. So a lot of audiobook reviews you're going to get from me. So I will check in with you soon with something else. But yeah, this was a fun challenge. Let me know if you've done something like this, or if you want me to do more of these. Cars. Bye.